Hi, we're in the space of Kanevsky Art Gallery in Princeton, USA. And gallery at present moment is a principal site of two very important organizations existing in the world's culture these days, one of which is called New Renaissance, another is called Art for Peace in the World Organization. For those of you who are not familiar at this point yet with New Renaissance, I would re-emphasize brief historical moments that in the year of 2015, I myself, Alexander Kanevsky, have been pronounced, titled and published, founder of New Renaissance in the world. It happened in Italy by the number of publications, museum shows, and live performances and television shows, whereof New Renaissance, the largest, second largest piece in the history of world's culture and ideology, have traveled into the United States by virtue of myself bringing New Renaissance into New York City in November of the same year, 2015, from Italy, where New Renaissance have originated. Now, the gallery in Princeton is considered to be a principal site of New Renaissance in the World Organization. New Renaissance has received a further spread into other countries of the world: France, Denmark, Kenya, China, Japan, etc., etc. Now, new growing number of members are spreading about like mushrooms in a spring forest. And Art for Peace in the World is an organization sponsored by United Nations, Ambassador of Peace, Sacred Prince of Venice, Monsignor Sandro Polin. The organization has undivided entitlements and powers to do any cultural project in every country in the world, every cultural project, every art project that brings about a feeling of creation, procreation, recreation, and finally peace, that ultimately lead to peace in the world. So the gallery is at the same time principal site of this very important world's organization. Now I have a distinct pleasure to introduce to you the new appointed director of United States of America branch of New Renaissance Division, self-called Art and Science, Ryan Mcdonald.
Thank
Ryan, it's a great pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You also, I'm very proud.
Well, thank you.
Very proud.
Thank you.
And Ryan, tell the audience, which are not everybody in the world might be familiar with you and what you do at the present. If you would share, I'm sure that the world's audience will be extremely happy, as I'm personally very touched by profundity and depth and breadth of Ryan's engagements in various areas and regions of human creative and cognitive affiliations. That includes art and science, which are primarily Ryan's aspiration. Ryan also truly is a Renaissance man himself, who also creates poetry, haiku-like, on the level of great Basoe, the creation of Japanese tanka of medieval times. And Ryan had struck my heart initially when I saw Ryan at different Ryan's talks and presentations as the man who entertains himself, unlike most of us, not by watching television, but by reading physics. Ryan, your word.
Thank you.
And this is also, Ryan, excuse me 1 second, I also want to introduce a remarkable lady of our time, who is today in the show together with us, Elaine, famous American designer. Claire, pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. So the idea with art and science are to obviously not only merge the two, but have a focus on bringing science from all walks of life into all forms of art that's governed within New Renaissance itself. Like Alexander said before, I'm going to be using poetry, haiku, 918, iambic pentameter, all different forms dependent upon the poem itself, and then incorporate them hopefully in the future on cellulose, and then we will publish something for New Renaissance. Today I brought 7 new poems as kind of just to get you informed with my work, and I'll read them for you right now, if that'd be
Great.
This one, I'm not going to give an overview as to the poem itself, and the reason why is because once you read them, once it's in front of you and once you read them, I would like to know what you think. There is obviously a story for each poem to which I write, but I think it's more important for me to feel that I evoked an emotion in that person, and that's why I won't be doing that. This one's titled Bad Dad. In 918. Patiently he reflected on time, coded in conditions of corrections that corroded his sovereignty. Nevertheless, unscathed, he dared to study his ashes and proclaim that he too would be eternally late. Watch his young grow, built open-ended now, urgent, but shackled as a forever sprout thirsting to be only still. A man's friend can be his reflection, depending on where in the present his mind so full of past can transcend and overcome these notions of haunt. And second, light bulb. Borrowed light coiled up within glass. Eyes stared through and back beyond the moral boundaries that once was paved. A lie, yes, but burrowed beneath him, and the confines that governed his conclusions now seem lessened with age. A capable, competent theory, a code unfelt by most in a direction determined by no man, plainly seen by all that allow it. Without their permission, they must grow now beyond their blindness and fear. The certainty that saved them all can still be of heart, however life will continue without this idea. Long love. Fair, sallow skin pinkened softly in the heights of the light, a new-founded knee fastened the surface, honoring a promise between them. She was spring, fast as the gales that lifted their wares and entangled them up again in each other's embrace. The warmth stayed for hours more in her smile and remained so after they both would depart in the children that braided their visage as one. Old one, the bishop in all men, the hardest of hearts, and 6 wooden legs balancing a life that needs life from life's touch, without compromising variables deeply manifested like that which drew harmonies from his rooted depth, descent partook stemming from all malt, gardening his common terrain powdered by muted silver, refracting the light to which matched his hair, control, independence but dependent on conflicts to find resolutions. It is always better a mind made for movements than the acute realization of our movement in age must cease. And then I switch it up here. Farm. Reaching a balance in what she would claim the vacuum of transitioning forward. The soil she saw became the clay she knew, and that clay became the destination she displayed in the guise she did carry. A process of new laboring orchards, plucked by only elegant devices that other men built despite most all men. Future councils amassed activities, a propensity for great industry, and she recommended great earth instead. And as Alexander said before, there's going to be quite a bit of haiku in here as well, even though we haven't heard, so I'll read some haiku to you.
Yes.
This one is 2 and 1, and actually...
If I could intervene for one
Sure,
second.
absolutely.
So far, even without reading haiku, but from what Ryan has read now, I could draw a line from starting from Woodworth, going to Coleridge, proceeding into Shelley, Percy Boucher, and finally terminating into William Blake.
Oh.
Nevertheless, none of the above has given the mind that feeling of transcendental meditation, which only Orient can offer. So now I already feel the presence of Oriental mind. I already feel the presence of Lao Tzu, of Oriental poetry. I already feel the presence of medieval Japanese poetry. And now coming personally to the haiku and kankan will be an incredible experience.
Thank you,
Ryan. It's absolutely great.
Thank you so much. I will be doing, and it's funny to even say this because it's kind of a paradox. I'm writing several haikus in the form of one epic haiku and story. And this was written actually for Claire, as I said before. This is 2 and 1. Our time dilation. She watches oscillating. For me, she is still. And finally, because we're going into election seasons this year, I wrote one as a reminder, and this is one I will talk about because I think this is important. The rest is not as important. This is important because this is all of us together as one. This is a reminder that we're all here. We're all here in the States, and we all suffer each other's consequences and what we do, and we're all supposed to be here together for each other. So I think it's important for us, no matter who you choose to vote for or whomever, but to reflect on what is important for you and most importantly your children and the people you will be affecting with whom you put in office. And this one is called Politico, and it's a working title, so it's not finished as are some of the others. Propositions rounding argent mouths stagger forth, teetering on great divides of glowing recant. Who but you? Motioning forth the machine that molds, empowers masters of places wherein lines become grain and sand, only to turn away from those that till it. And so that's what I have with me right now. I'm looking at, and I know this is quite vast, but I'm looking at anywhere between 25 and 50 because once I get on a roll, I tend to keep writing and writing and writing, and then dividing them up between 2 different volumes. Working, once new cameras come out, working on developing a collage on Super 8, black and white, high contrast, Tri-X, and then color as well. And then hopefully next year we'll have everything together and then we can move forward with that. So I want to thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan, for bringing this new light into the world. Combining and poetry certainly is a great part of New Renaissance. As we know, even on the example of Michelangelo, who was writing poetry, by only death I live, and do not hide that by unhappy destiny I'm happy, who fears to live in cause of death and hostage, step in the fire where I am burned. poetry has been a part of original Renaissance. Poetry has been a humongous part of post-Renaissance. And finally, poetry will be a humongous part of a new Renaissance. And post-Renaissance poets like Shakespeare, like Goethe, like Dante, like Mandelstam, they have created a humongous temple of human creativity that will be incorporated in New Renaissance. And Ryan, you are one of the protagonists of New Renaissance in the form of art and science, wherein poetry, in fact, is both art and science. And if you talk about scientific poetry, I would say Pasternak, as not knowing that he is a scientist, but his poetry and the way he created his poetry was science-like. His methodology was scientific. He was dividing and analyzing every word by color, by vision, by form, by sound, how that very word will be influencing next one in a line.
Yeah, I agree. And most importantly, it's encouraging all of you in any form or medium to work on your stuff and submit it to Alexander and to myself and try and develop that foundation of great masterpieces. I can't wait to read what you guys read. I can't wait to see what you guys paint or design, like Claire. And Claire, you want to say a few words about Artifact and your company?
Sure. I am a designer, both as of right now, mainly focusing on interiors and jewelry. I find myself focusing on all sorts of design, really wanting to work with people where I can influence all areas of their lives. But those are the two that I've started with now. I find it very invigorating and inspiring to be around this movement, around the New Renaissance, to be able to, in me personally and with my design, to inspire me to greatness and to take my craft to the highest level that it can be taken. Because I think that for me, that's what this inspires the most. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what it brings out in Ryan, because so far what it's done has been pretty impressive.
Oh, thank you. And her stuff is amazing too.
Yeah.
Her stuff is beautiful. Oh my God.
Truly
She's truly modest too by saying that
yes.
her stuff is beautiful. Alexander,
Great beauty should be modest.
could you give us a little information too about what else you have here in the gallery outside of the other pieces that everyone else is?
Yes, I certainly should, and as I always do with every receptions that we have in the gallery, I do introduce my collection of other artists of modernity. Modernity is usually a little piece of American artist whose name is Catherine Cosgrove, and this is quintessence of a tiger. She's very young, but I thought this is fascinating, and I've taken into the prestigious and very peculiar collection. This is Danish painter, contemporary, Kirsten Hoest. This is not altogether the classical Renaissance form, but it's very interesting, and it gives me something of geometrical realism, which was trying to have developed last century and yet has not fully developed yet. But in geometry of these figures, you certainly see some transcendental ideas, which I would say transcend time and space. Those ideas. You could meditate on this painting, and you could get inspired by this painting. This is classical Italian art of 18th century. I'm still trying to define and to determine. It's found in the United States. Who is the author of the painting? This is Jenny Pompa, the founder of three-dimensional realism, who mostly paints trees, but as you see, every leaf is painted by application of separate color, separate piece of a color. So he takes literally a piece and puts it as a leaf. It's quite a body of work. And Jenny is an artist from Rome, and this is Alessandro Trani. Alessandro Trani, also an artist from Rome, and I find his line horizon, which to me is a division between consciousness and unconsciousness. It brings me into some also transcendental meditative state of mind. I find this absolutely fascinating. He's also an artist from Rome. This is Patrizia Canola, also an Italian artist, and she also likes to paint trees. And this is a philosophical composition with one tree almost either in the process of falling down, and another tree is standing firmly on the ground. It's not unlike us human beings, right? We also are partially trees, in fact. This is Mauro Capitani. This is Mauro Capitani. And this is another line of horizon created by this very famous Italian painter. And this is this is as a matter of fact a lithograph of Mauro Capitani. And let me show you a couple of more pieces. This is not altogether figurative painting. This is a rather abstract art by also contemporary American painter Daniel Kleine. But in this composition of abstraction, I see even more science. It's definitely physics. It's mathematics. You can get, by meditating on this painting, you can get a lot of ideas for your personal development or development in the area whereupon you're working at present. Quite intriguing. I'm just absolutely in love with this. And this is another piece of newly acquired by gallery Joe Esposito. Joe Esposito, as a matter of fact, is appointed director of coloristic revival, a revival of color, subdivision of New Renaissance. He is classically trained painter, and he has lots of classical subjected painting. However, his latest aspiration is to revive the color that has been lost in modern times. And this form is reduced to not altogether classical form, but yet there is in this so-called coloristic simplicity, I see something absolutely charming.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So,
thank you.
Pleasure is mine, absolutely, Ryan. And again, congratulations, and I'm very happy, and I'm very flattered that you, not anybody else, have just become a director of United States branch of New Renaissance Art and Science.
Thank you so much.
I'm absolutely flattered.
Thank you.
And Claire, certainly I'm so flattered and so happy that you are a part of this show.
Thank you.
And as you know, design is extremely important.
Yes.
Part of art.
Absolutely.
And design as a part of post-Renaissance development will be introduced and included into New Renaissance.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
And you, with all your eloquent achievements and
Thank you very
beauty,
much. I appreciate it.
certainly it's a great pleasure having tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
and
Alexander.
you also,
Yes,
my dear.
absolutely. Thank you.
So, New Renaissance for me, after, and obviously now getting a chance to see your gallery and seeing everything that it is, in a modern age, it's incorporating everything that is humanity, everything that is man, and shaping it in a way to where stylistically metaphysically, it's even hard. It's hard to even explain. Can I start again? Can I start again? Because it's if I explain, I don't even have words to describe it. I don't like. I really don't. I mean, and I think that's more than anything. And to be if I explain it in any other context outside of something formal, I think it degrades what New Renaissance is, because it's actually a feeling for me more than it is a thing. It's like when you go to the Met and you look at a Raphael, or when you were really young and you were learning about Leonardo da Vinci and what he was able to do, and incorporating it in a way that moves a person closer to a classical format while allowing the boundaries not to be there anymore. And I think that's really what it is for me. Like I can't describe it any other way. Yeah.
It's consummation of everything that attained already by evolution of mankind, man culture.
Sure. Well, it's also a
which gives.
Yes.
In order to give the further push, you have to collect and recollect what has been already attained. Now, when you give it a collection from that stage, you can give it a further push.
Sure.
And this is a platform whereupon we're standing right now.
Yeah, and I quite honestly feel that it's a liberation, if you were, not to say that other art forms are not, so please don't get me wrong, but it's a liberation in a way that it feels that it doesn't have a specific box to where it's put into. I mean, it really doesn't, because just like the great masters before, in the time of the Renaissance, they were doing what they knew innately. I mean, Michelangelo even turned away many times and borderline hated painting the Sistine Chapel because he didn't feel that he was adequate enough to do it.
Very true.
And that is what's important, I think. And I think that if I were to say one thing about New Renaissance, think on that. Think on the fact that Michelangelo made the Sistine Chapel and felt that he was inadequate while doing so. And I think that is something that most artists, and especially artists that are turning towards New Renaissance and finding a home in this realm. That's a great term. This realm should think on. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Ryan.
Absolutely.
Absolutely beautiful. And again, profoundly touched with your poetry.
Oh, thank you so much.
Profoundly touched. And for the growing generation of our world, of course, one more time I want to re-emphasize the importance of studies and readings in order to develop yourself. And one of the great examples that I give to my daughter Daniela and to the young people in the United States of America, across the world, in Italy, Ryan, when he said to me that I entertain myself by reading physics, it just melted my heart and made me dagger. Stagger, I'm sorry. Thank you. Absolutely right. Claire, a word from you before we conclude.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you again, Alexander, for recognizing what you have recognized in Ryan. I think.
Well, Ryan has been recognized before me.
Well, yes.
And I just saw something incredible, and thereupon we have joined our thoughts together.
Yeah.
And this is a great culminative moment, and moment that at the same time culminates everything that we have come together to celebrate this moment. And from this moment, it will be efflorescing as a tree,
like
growing
into
the new and new beautiful things that we will create as in the States, as in the rest of the world.
Yeah, like it's a beautiful thing, that's right.
Right.
Very much so.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kleine. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.